in the USA, the Colorado Supreme Court has removed Donald Trump from the state's Republican primary ballot.
Well, it ruled he had violated the insurrectionist clause, citing his role in the January the 6th riot.
Now, this is the first time in history that that clause has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate.
Well, let's speak now to Steve Gill, former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations. Very good to see you this morning, Steve. And this is significant, isn't it? It is the first time in history that this Section 3 clause of the 14th Amendment has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. Tell us a little bit about this clause and how it's worked.
Well, it seems like the Colorado Supreme Court has been caught up in Trump derangement syndrome and allowed their hatred of the former president to overwhelm the facts and the law in this case. The constitutional provision was put in after the U.S. Civil War, where hundreds of thousands died in that battle over overturning the United States. In this case, they're trying to apply it to a riot that appeared on Capitol Hill on January 6th, where only one person were killed, not the hundreds of thousands in the Civil War, and it was an unarmed woman shot and killed by the Capitol Hill police. A couple of major problems with this case. One, Donald Trump has never been charged, much less convicted of insurrection, and yet the court reaching a conclusion based upon no evidence or no facts at all. Second, this insurrection clause is intended to deal with the attempt to overturn the government. And I don't think anybody watching that riot, as distasteful as it was, thought that they were actually going to overturn the U.S. government. So this case is likely to be overturned on appeal by the Supreme Court. And keep in mind, this was 7 unelected Democrat-appointed judges in Colorado. It was a 4-3 decision, and even the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in Colorado dissented with the opinion.
Steve, let's just suppose it goes ahead. Practically, that would mean that if Trump stood for president, if he got a nomination and he's on the ballot ticket or whatever, he can be in Washington State, he can be in California, he can be in lots of places. He just would not be allowed to stand in Colorado. No one in Colorado could cast a vote for Donald Trump as president. Am I right?
Yes, and actually this deals with the March primary in Colorado, where Republican voters would be denied the opportunity to vote for the leading candidate in the Republican primary. It would only apply in Colorado. And interestingly, the Republican leadership in Colorado have said, fine, if this stands, if the Supreme Court doesn't overturn it at the U.S. federal level, then they'll go to a caucus system. They'll pick him by caucus and have him on the ballot in November, regardless if they can't put him on the ballot for this primary. I don't think it gets there. I think the Supreme Court of the United States throws this out rather quickly because it is such an egregious assault on democracy. While you've got some Democrats saying that democracy is on the ballot this election season, you actually have unelected judges preventing voters in Colorado from being able to vote for who they wish to vote for.
Well, I know, and you're very strong about that. You keep repeating that. So therefore, I'm assuming that far from this harming Trump in any way, I presume last time around he did take Colorado, did he?
He took it in the primary. He did not take it in the general election. It was a relatively narrow loss. But
so almost it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter to him. But the thing is, the fact that he has been refused to be able to stand there, would this actually help him again? We see all these things that are thrown at Trump. They go against him, and time after time, Steve, he turns negatives into positives.
Absolutely, he is. The politician of the century that can always defy political gravity. And again, whether it's indictments or anything else, he always seems to improve in the polls. I think this will motivate voters in Colorado to say this is unacceptable. But again, I think the U.S. Supreme Court's going to throw this out pretty clearly, probably in a 9-0 decision at the U.S. Supreme Court.
But of course,
you're a terrible man not playing along with me. Every time I ask you the question, you come up with that answer. It's going to be thrown out just for fun. I was just doing it for fun. Here's Ellie with a question.
But of course, Steve, there is going to be concern from the Trump campaign, surely, that more courts and more states are going to follow suit, and then that could hinder, even harm, his campaign in 2024.
Yeah, other states have already rejected this, but you still have others that are considering it. The problem is the Pandora's box that Democrats are opening here. There are about 27 of the 50 states that have Republican attorney generals. What happens if they say, okay, tit for tat, we're going to remove Joe Biden from the ballot in 27 other states. If you want to play this game, we can do the same thing. And that is a horrible, disastrous path, I think, for American politics to go. But the Democrats are also pushing the idea that Donald Trump does not have presidential immunity for his acts as president, which again would open the door after you have Joe Biden leave the White House of whether Republican AGs can pursue him for acts done during the Biden administration, perhaps treason for failing to protect the border, perhaps corruption and bribery. This tit for tat is going to open up a course that is going to make American politics even more divisive and dangerous if the Democrats don't back off.
Divisive, dangerous, but absolutely compelling for all of us, your side of the ocean and our side, Steve. Steve, really appreciate, as always, love to hear your take on things. We'll leave it there. That's Presidential Advisor Steve Gill. Thank you. And if I don't see you, Steve, happy Christmas to you. Compliments of the season to you.